Why, that's the second biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
The definition of insanity.
Hello, and welcome to episode 21 of PvA Radio. I'm one of your hosts, Luke Croft, and joining me, the man with the van, Larry Hunt.
It's true. I drive a van now.
Down by the river. He lives in it as well.
I actually made... so, let me tell you. Let me regale you with a brief tale.
No, you're good. This show's going to be off the rails.
Yes, it is. The last few weeks have felt like several months for me.
You too?
Yeah.
I'm right there with you, my dog.
We got rear-ended on the way back from Thanksgiving break. Drove the car home. Then when they went to fix the bumper, discovered lots of stuff was wrong. Car got totaled. So I had to argue with insurance adjusters over what my car was worth. Then we had to find a vehicle to purchase. Then there's the process of actually going to a dealership and purchasing, which I'm fine with. I don't really hate it terribly, the whole like bartering thing, but my wife makes it difficult for me because she can't help but tell the dealer what the maximum amount of money we're willing to spend is.
So the minimum amount of money you're willing to spend.
Yeah. But we wound up, we got this van. What story was I telling you?
I have no idea.
Okay. Anyway.
This is great radio.
This is great radio. But then we went on a trip in this van. I've had to pull an all-nighter. On top of all that, I've been eating like a college student. And I'm so tired, dude. It's been a long few weeks.
Yeah, dude. I don't know what it is about these last couple weeks that have felt the same way for me. Just like can't really get my hands around anything that I want to actually accomplish. Like I keep feeling like I'm trying to run on the beach.
Yes. So, I remembered what I was telling you. They tried to like add a bunch of warranties and stuff onto the van when I was buying the van, and they like had this nice little app to show you how much it was going to jack your monthly payment up to do all that. And I kept telling them I wasn't interested, and they just kept being pushy about it. I was like, look, if I'm going to pay this much for the van, I need it to be fancy enough for me to live in it. So stop.
Because that is exactly what I plan to do. Well, I'm glad you have purchased this minivan with several DVD players and an HDMI port for you to make your wife drive while you play Xbox in. So
I keep telling her, but she's resistant to this for some reason.
So speaking of new things, me and my wife are terrible at Christmas at like buying each other things and then waiting to give them to each other. And by that, I mean mostly I am bad at it because I don't know, man. Like, we don't get each other gifts a lot because as dinks, we're kind of like just able to, if we want something, we just go buy it within reason, obviously. But like,
Dinks?
Dual income, no kids.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
So yeah, we don't. So when it comes time for Christmas and like we're asking for things that we wouldn't generally buy for ourselves, I just get really excited. So I ordered her Christmas present Saturday, and it actually showed up today. And I got her a Samsung watch, and she had been wanting a smartwatch, and she picked like a few out and was like, "Just pick one of these. I don't know which one I actually want. You know, just give me whatever you think." So I got her the Samsung watch and gave it to her and opened it. Well, today also one of my Christmas gifts came, and she gave it to me, and it's just as cool as a smartwatch. Hold on. This is great radio too, but this is my mouse pad.
And you're going to live under that down by the river.
Exactly. I'm going to bring this to your van, and we can both sleep on it. It's literally like, I don't know, like 2.5 feet wide probably, but
Is your mouse the size of a small dog?
Yeah, it's actually called a dog. It's not a mouse. And now I got to figure out how to get this back on here without making a ton of racket. Anyway, so I'm in the process of getting a PC, and this is the first part to my PC.
The mouse pad.
My giant mouse pad. So to me, it was it's as much function as anything. But I told her I wanted one of those big pads that like your keyboard can set on, and when I'm gaming, you know, it just gives you a ton of real estate to play high sensitivity with. So, anyway, I also I have this mouse for my work computer that I bring home all the time, and I always forget my mouse pad at the office, and the mouse just doesn't really work that well on like my wood table. So,
Or your thigh.
Or my thigh. So this is something I can keep at the house. But I was almost as excited about this pad as she was about her smartwatch.
Yeah, I would be too. That's real nice.
Anyway, this is PvA Radio. We get together every week and we each bring one of the biggest news stories in game, and then we have a in-depth discussion about it. It's like a collaborative audio feature article, or CAFA, if you will. Get that tattooed somewhere on your body. If you're wondering where freelance gaming journalist Cody Mellowkline is, he's currently apartment hunting so that he can move and begin his new full-time job as a journalist. So best of luck to him. That's always exciting. And we look
I've
forward
moved from a home to a van. Cody's moving from a van to a home.
Exactly.
I assume he lived in a van. With a really nice place to lay down and do this podcast in.
He lives in Boston. I'm sure the only thing he can afford is a van. So, all right, a little bit of housekeeping news. Next week is Christmas Eve. Week after that is New Year's Eve. So you won't be hearing the dulcet tones of these sultry voices for the next 2 weeks. So, just play this at like 0.25 speed, and then it'll last you through the winter.
Welcome to...
Now I got to go back and listen to that part on 0.25 speed.
Yeah.
And it would probably sound like this. Welcome to...
Now I've got to go back and listen to that on 0.25 speed, and it'll probably sound like... What if we just kept going for half an hour? Do you think people would still listen?
It would be better than what we have planned for this show. Guys, seriously, it's off the rails because not only has this busy week gotten in the way of real life, it has also gotten in the way of this podcast. Larry and I updating show notes 10 minutes before we go on the air. So
I called to apologize about not getting my show notes ready, only for Luke to tell me that he didn't get them ready in time either.
Yeah.
But he still did better than me.
Oh, man. But after the break is over, when we come back on, I guess that will be January 6th will be when we record the podcast. Hopefully, we'll be doing it live. We'll do it live.
Mm-hmm. We'll do it live.
Over on twitch.tv/PVA Radio. Go follow it. So what are your plans for the holidays, Larry?
We'll go to West Virginia to see family. Christmas Eve, we spend at my grandmother's, and then the next day we split time between our moms. And then hopefully lots of napping and eating leftover Christmas food. And on New Year's Eve, I don't usually do anything. And I like it that way.
I'm sorry, you cut out when you said New Year's Eve, so I don't know what you were doing New Year's Eve.
Nothing, and I like it that way.
Fantastic. Yeah, so we're going to travel. Well, we're going to have Christmas with my family Saturday, and then Christmas with Lauren's family on Sunday. And I'm trying to convince her to let us to come back Christmas Eve night, and then just sit at the house and watch basketball all day on Christmas Day. So just me and her. Like, I'm from a big family, and like my brother and sisters, they have tried to make it so that Christmas Day is kind of like their family's individual days, so that like they get to celebrate with their kids and stuff, which is awesome because it makes it more flexible for us to do what we want to do. But it also may give us the opportunity this year to just chill, which is something like when you're an adult, especially like when you're in your 20s and you're married and you're trying to like juggle families. December 25th is not a chill day generally.
No.
So I'm trying to convince her. I just want to play video games and watch basketball on Christmas. That'd be the greatest Christmas present of all time. So, I mean, next to this giant ass mouse pad. So, all right, Larry, what have you been playing?
Not much of anything. A little bit of. I've hopped on a couple times to get a little bit of Overwatch in, just so I can stay not rusty. And I wish I hadn't, because it affects my SR when I just jump on and do that. But when does playing Overwatch not affect my SR negatively?
What is SR?
That game, it's just so rough, man. You have like those rare nights where you find a group of people that understand the game, they want to play well, and it goes well, and you win.
No matter what.
And no matter what, everybody's hands go up, and they stay there, and they say, yeah, up, down, up, down, up, down. And speaking of down, then you have many more nights where someone's going to auto-lock Genji and play him against Mei and Zarya and Moira and Ryan and just try to deflect the hammers and the beams. And you're going to have, like, it's just a bunch of nonsense and your SR tanks, and it's awful. But you get those nights, those great nights, and it just, it gives you that fix that keeps you coming back for more, hoping the next hit will be as powerful as the first.
Yeah. I'm kind of approaching the game with a little bit of a different philosophy from now on. Like, because there is no reason a video game should be affecting me psychologically as much as Overwatch affects me when I play it. and so I've been watching a lot of different streamers, and but one of my favorites has become Emong, who he was a professional off tank for the Philadelphia Fusion, and now I think he's just a full-time streamer now. But anyway, he just tries to keep real positive and not let people impact his way of playing, and like he admits his mistakes and tries to correct people when they're making mistakes. But one of the things he started doing is like, I mean, that he does that I've started doing is if I get in and just somebody's being awful on chat, I just mute them. Like, there's no point in arguing with somebody over the internet. Like, I don't have the time and the patience for it, and all it's going to do is like carry over into my next game when I'm playing with people who weren't involved, And so I'm kind of trying to take that approach and just be more positive and really focus on like, how can I be playing better to help improve my team? Because I mean, as much as I love complaining about my teammates at Tales from Gold on Twitter, there's plenty of stuff I can be doing better as well. And one of those things I can be doing better is being more like constructive with my feedback when I'm talking to my teammates in the game, and not getting mad tilted like I have a tendency to do. So that's been my approach.
Relate.
What's that?
I can't relate to getting tilted. Never have.
Larry's never going to stream Overwatch so that he can't be proved wrong.
Oh my gosh. I can't stream Overwatch.
Well, cool. Well, I've been playing some Smash Brothers. We went out yesterday and got it. And I'm not a huge Smash fan. I'm not really great at fighting games, but Lauren likes Smash Brothers, and it's a game that we can play together. And it's kind of a good thing that we can play this game together. So yesterday we played for like 3 hours. But when you first unbox the game, you have only like 7 or 8 characters available for you to play.
Yeah.
And then you just have to unlock every character, and like the challenger appears after every like 3 or 4 matches or whatever. Is this like common in Smash? Is this how it generally is?
Yeah, that's how it's always been.
See, I don't remember Smash for Wii U starting with that small of a fighter pool.
I don't know that I ever played the one for Wii U.
Well,
but
you
would
played
be the
it.
Outlier.
Yeah, you played it with me a little bit, but yeah, I'm sure you weren't paying attention to that. You wouldn't have known if we had unlocked them or if they had just been there. But now I kind of want to look up where that was. But I don't know, man. Like Jason Schreier kind of wrote an article or some tweets about how like it's not like a fun grind, like the game is advertised as like the gang's all here. Everybody who's ever been in a Smash Brothers game is here, but it's going to take you forever to unlock all these characters. And to me, it's just like, I'm not really great with any of the first few that you get. I'm not really great with any of them. I'm not like delusional and think that I'm going to be amazing with any of them that I unlock, but I'm not really interested in playing with any of the ones originally on there, except maybe Samus. But I don't know. I wish it was a little more open. I don't like grind for the sake of grind, and that's what it feels like. Even if this is the legacy of Smash and how Smash has always been, like, I just feel like there are more rewarding gameplay loops to put people into than, hey, play 4 games, fight this character, and only if you beat it do you get to keep the character.
Yeah. With a lot of them, there's like a specific thing that happens that makes them show up to challenge you after the round. But that can make it even more frustrating because you don't know what's going to make them show up unless you do figure out what caused it or you get online and look it up. Like, I can't remember what character it was, but back with Smash Brothers Melee, the second one, whatever the second one was, Brawl, Melee, I don't know. There was one character that showed up after you had played the game for however many hours. And I remember my friend Cameron and I just leaving our Nintendo 64s on and going about our business. Like we like turned on some computers on Infinite Lives on a match and just like let the computer beat the crap out of non-moving opponents for several hours just so we could unlock this character. And like when you got to do that kind of nonsense, that's not fun.
Yeah.
And it made sense back in the day to a degree. Like, it gave a game with no progression system, no like achievement kind of things, like a sense of achievement. But in this era, you have actual achievements, you've got trophies, and the game, I mean, for a long time now, the game has had like a single player kind of mode in it. Like there's progression. There's no need to manufacture progression.
Well, not to mention that there's online modes and stuff as well that weren't there for the N64 because, a lot of Nintendo games are based around like being able to play them with other people. Mario Kart, Mario Party, Smash, like those are games you invite people over and you all play together and you can kind of replicate that experience wherever you are because you can just connect online and play against other people. And now I've heard that there are some kinks in the online modes currently, but still, like that's it's inherent within the game now. And so I just don't think I'm okay with like, hey, here's some special characters that you need to win fights against to unlock. But to be like, hey, I know we got a roster of 397,000 characters, but you're only going to start with these 7. 3 of them are Pikachu.
I heard that any day now Nintendo's going to wrap up the intro video where they show you every character and all the moves they do.
I check in on it every now and again. It's kind of like that Infinite Live thing that me, you, and Cameron used to do back on the N64. So that's an inside check. Oh man! All right. And then I also got to play some Call of Duty Blackout with Ben. That game is fun, and I am terrible at it. And I realize why I'm bad at battle royales, right? And it's one word,
right?
Patience. I have none. Like
I play battle royales not even to win. I like winning's fun, whatever. I don't give a crap. I for the same reason, I don't have the patience.
Yeah.
I want to be the guy that just charges everybody. I am the chaos. I will make this game fun.
Yeah. Well, but like with Call of Duty, you can get dropped so quick, and so like I was playing. We played some squads, and my internet was being terrible, and so that wasn't that great. But I got on a little bit yesterday and just played solo for a bit, and I actually did pretty well. A couple games, got a few kills, which I know isn't that great, but for me it is. And there's one game like I got the circle on my drop. I was feeling really good about my loadout. I think I had 4 kills, and then there was just one corner I didn't check in a building that I went through. And I only saw the guy after he killed me. And to me, it's like, well, yeah, I don't have the patience to check every corner, and I like being in the gunfight. But it's also just like, how is this rewarding? Like, it just doesn't feel super rewarding when you play this long and you play as well as I felt like I was playing, only to like get killed without ever having a chance to even see the person. But yeah, so. But that's a game I'm going to jump into every now and again, especially like when I need a break from Overwatch. So, and then I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but Ben bought Rainbow Six Siege, and I'm afraid to start it because I'm afraid of what's going to happen to me. Because I know I'm going to love it, and I'm probably going to fall in love with the competitive scene, and I'm like my television is perpetually on Overwatch contenders already. Like, do I have space in my life to watch competitive Rainbow Six Siege?
Well, now that I know you guys have it, I'll probably go ahead and buy it.
It's on. We have it on PlayStation. His group of guys play it. If I like it,
well, now that I know you guys have it, I'll go ahead and buy a PlayStation.
There we go. If I end up liking it,
Psych.
because Ben's got like his group of guys he already plays with, and I'm sure number one, I don't really want to, and number two, they don't really want me to play with them. But if I end up liking it and I see it on sale on the Xbox, I probably will get it. But I just know that that's a game that will probably get its hooks in me.
Yeah.
So, all right, Larry, you've
What?
got more follow-up for us. Fallout follow-up. We need to just
gosh.
call this segment after what have you been playing, the Fallout of Fallout. All right, Larry, let's continue exploring the Fallout of Fallout.
All right, so very brief catch you up if you haven't paid attention to what's going on with Fallout. Game released, super buggy, lots of problems, lots of sad, angry people that they that they paid money for this game.
They bought money for it. They bought money from the bank, took that money to a game store, and then bought the game.
Yep. In the midst of this backlash, customers who ordered the very special edition and were supposed to receive canvas bags, instead received nylon bags that were much cheaper. When there was outcry over that, Bethesda was very dismissive of people being upset, which led to even more anger, which eventually led to Bethesda deciding, all right, here's $5 of in-game currency, which is nothing, which made people even more angry. And then we discovered that Bethesda actually had made some canvas bags and given them to influencers who could promote the game for free, which led to even more anger. And finally, they decided that they're going to replace the bags with good canvas bags, and they promised to be more transparent moving forward. And then after that, the first patch came through with lots of things that they weren't transparent about. And to a degree, it's a lot of those things. It's nitpicky. They were things that any developer would have fixed. They were mostly bugs that people were able to take advantage of. But in that swirling storm of anger, they just needed to be more upfront, and it would have been fine. But they weren't, and people were even more angry. Well, I feel like there are a couple of things I'm missing, but those are the highlights, right?
Yeah.
Can you think of anything I've
No,
missed?
you're good.
All right. So here we are, once again, another week, another bad step from Bethesda with Fallout 76. Now, at one point, Bethesda really made a big deal about how all of the things that you could spend in-game currency on were going to be cosmetic. They weren't going to be gameplay affecting. They weren't going to do anything pay to win. Well, in the change logs, people have been able to find that they're about to implement something called lunch boxes, and these lunch boxes look like they're going to be buffs, things that are going to affect the way that people play, the amount of stuff they can carry, the amount of damage they can do. And PvP, like, it's going to minimally affect that, but it's going to give you a major boost in how much you can get done in the in-game stuff, where you go into nuked areas and get really cool things there. So it's not pay to win in the sense of you'll be able to kill lots of people, but it is pay to win in the sense that you're going to be able to get a lot more benefit from this game and progress more quickly than players who do not spend the money on lunch boxes. So, like, again, I don't know what Bethesda's thinking here. Like, you should be in the middle of let's make amends, let's patch things up, we've really screwed up, and instead they looked back on this gaming generation that was rife with people getting very upset about pay to win systems in loot boxes, and they decided, you know what? We haven't had a pay to win loot box controversy yet. We might as well throw one of those in there as well.
And this just feels like we set out our roadmap probably months ago, for this kind of rollout.
Yeah.
And damn it, we're sticking to our rollout regardless of how people may perceive it. And I imagine this is something that they'll back out of pretty quickly. But you talked a little bit about the before the show about those My PlayStation Life videos and how they've been able to farm some information from them. And what were the numbers you said were extrapolated in regards to Fallout 76?
So just to give a little context, you had like the top 10 games that have been engaged in on PlayStation, like pulling in like over 30 million players, over 50 million players for Grand Theft Auto 5. The lowest in the top 10 was 18 million players or so. Fallout 76 has had 400,000. So
yeah, and so you have to imagine that they're also thinking like, how are we going to recoup costs, and hoping that these loot boxes can recoup costs. But there was a meme on Reddit the other day of this like skin that turns your power armor white. That's like $19 or something like that. And then they showed all of the Witcher DLC being $19. Well, the Blood and Wine DLC, and it's just like, this is what CD Projekt Red thinks is worth $20, and this is what Bethesda thinks is worth $20. And I mean, it just is indicative, like, you know, the whole idea that the 500 atoms that you were given for, you know, being duped into buying a collector's edition that didn't come as advertised couldn't even buy you like an outfit. It could buy you like a hat, maybe. is just asinine. So you have to imagine that if their microtransaction system currently is predatory, maybe an overstatement, but it's definitely not worth it. I wouldn't imagine a loot box system being implemented in any kind of acceptable manner either. So it'll be interesting to see if Bethesda follows through on this, and I'm sure now in our recurring segment, the Fallout of Fallout, you will bring us with another update. That was Larry Hunt live on the scene in Bethesda, Maryland.
I feel like I'm back at the beginning of the Player 3 podcast when every week there was some misstep with Destiny's launch.
Yeah. Well, and it just becomes kind of an easy vein to follow. And I worry sometimes with these stories, and I think I mentioned this maybe last week. I worry that some of these stories kind of are less about what's actually happening with the game and more about what light they can, what like shade they can paint it in. And so, like, you know, we talked a little bit last week about the transparency of that update being a thing that's like, well, you know, it could or couldn't be as bad as we're trying to make it. I just think Bethesda's a really easy punching bag. But this is one of those moves that's just like, what great loot box system has come out in 2018 that everybody was like, that is the model right there.
Battlefront 2, hands
down. There we
go.
All right, Larry, thanks for bringing that new report to us this week.
You're welcome. I look forward to next week's fiasco.
All right, we're sticking with you as we move into our topics. What are we talking about this week?
So I've got a Polygon article. Fresh Prince's Alfonso Ribeiro suing Epic Games over Fortnite Carlton dance use. And I'm not really going to read the article.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
You, but it's just one thing in what appears to be a growing trend. Fortnite uses popular dances. It's something you can unlock for your character. And the people who are creating those popular dances are getting upset that they're not seeing any
financial compensation.
Words. Yes, thank you. I was about to say recompense, and I'm like, that's not it. Financial compensation for the use of their dances. And so one big one was Millie Rock, right? Yes. His Millie Rock dance.
2 Millie.
Sorry, the rapper is 2 Millie. The dance is
We're
Millie
old.
Rock.
We're old people,
My
guys.
bad.
We don't know anything.
I've also seen the flossing dance from Satchel Kid. Saw it in the Walmarts being advertised. Anyway, in all seriousness, now Alfonso Ribeiro is going after him for the Carlton dance. So I'm torn on this. On the one hand, I'm like, can you really take, like, dancing is like a weird thing to like claim as your own, right? Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, these dances are very obvious, very recognizable. They can be traced to the people that popularized them, and they are artists, and shouldn't artists be credited for their work if it's being used? Epic Games is profiting off of these dances. It only seems fair that the people who made the dances should see a share of that. So I don't know. What do you think, man?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's one of those weird things. Like with, in music, it's like you can't copyright a chord progression, right? Like you can't be like GCDC. I am copyrighting GCDC. All worship ministers out there, give me all of your money. But there are layers to a song that you create, right? That if put together in the right way, you can copyright that. And if somebody uses it, dancing's kind of the same way. Like you can't copyright a box step or like the disco finger or whatever, but you put enough movements together and make it recognizable enough. I would imagine that would become some sort of like protected intellectual property. And the fact that like Epic kind of does this unabashedly in a flagrant way where they realize that there's a certain line that they cannot cross, but getting like right up to it. So let's take the Carlton dance for instance. When it the dance is called the Fresh emote, and which obviously the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and it's just like everybody sees it and they know, well, that's the Carlton dance, and so Epic has some sort of awareness that what they are doing, I think, is towing a line. And I can't remember the guy's name, but the guy who played Turk on Scrubs, like he was another guy who got kind of upset that Fortnite was using this dance that basically the scene was like the director of the episode just said, hey, we're going to play Poison. You just freelance a dance to Poison. And he made the dance. And the Fortnite creators were saying like, we made the emote directly from the video. It's 1-to-1 with the video. Like, saying exactly where it came from. And like, is an improvised dance that was caught on film for a particular scene. Like, is that easier to prove that it's a dance that you created? Like when a director is vouching for, hey, we just told him to freestyle. And I do think Chance the Rapper brought this up, and I'm actually, next time you talk, I'm going to pull up the tweet from him, just about how like Fortnite is kind of exploiting the African American dance culture and taking these dances that are popularized by, black pop culture icons and not giving credit where credit is due. In fact, going as far as to blatantly not give credit, not calling it the Carlton dance. This is the Fresh emote, or that does leave a sour taste in my mouth.
Yeah. And that's more or less where I wind up leaning. Just it's not like they're sort of similar dances. They are blatantly like these are direct copies. I do think I actually agree with most of these lawsuits that are happening and most of these complaints that are happening. I don't agree with the Carlton one, really, because he stole that dance from Courtney Cox in a Bruce Springsteen video, and you can find YouTube videos of him talking about doing it. And I'm like, you can't blatantly steal someone else's dance and then get mad that they stole it from you. So I think that his is probably like, I don't know. I don't like that one, but the rest of it, I'm on board with.
Well, I think there is something to be said about the Carlton dance. It is an exaggerated version of the Courtney Cox dance, but it's also that he popularized it as well. And I think there's something to be said for that. So Chance the Rapper, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I want to push back on that. So if Fortnite found a video of like a not very well-known dancer and took it and popularized it, would that be okay?
I guess that's a good point. That's a good point. So, yeah. I don't have anything to say in rebut to that. That's a great point.
This has literally never happened to me.
So Chance the Rapper said, this was in a tweet back in July. He said, Fortnite should put the actual rap songs behind the dances that make so much money as emotes. Black creatives created and popularized these dances but never monetized them. Imagine the money people are spending on these emotes being shared with the artists that made them. And I think that that's actually kind of a good way of maybe getting to the point of like being able to compensate and being able to put a dollar amount to it, right? As if the rap songs that were the songs that are played behind these, like, okay, we're not paying for the dance because it's really hard to copyright a dance, but these songs that this dance was popularized to, they're copyrighted. We can include them in the game, and we can, you know, give some sort of compensation based off of how many of these are purchased. I mean, Fortnite is flushed with cash, and I look, I'm constantly the advocate of like, companies are going to try to make money however they can make money, right? And so I'm not saying they're flush with cash. They can do with parting with some. But I think in this instance, in fairness to people who have created these dances and popularized them, then there needs to be some compensation that needs to be had.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Just you've probably seen some version of this tweet or meme or whatever that's been floating around, but although I think it goes too far sometimes and the things people do get ticked off about, I do appreciate over the last couple of years like the attention that's been brought to how much artists are taken advantage of. Mm-hmm. And you've experienced this as someone who you are a skilled musician, and you know, you've got people that are like, hey, come play this thing for me for free for exposure. Mm-hmm. It'll be good for you. Yeah. No one wants to pay artists. And I've enjoyed seeing this tweet circulating that it talks about how anyone who thinks that art's worthless, not something you should pursue, not something you should pay for, should just have to go through a month without being able to look at graphics on their computers. So like you just have lines of text. There's no TV, music, movies, nothing. Mm-hmm. Like there's just the pragmatic day-to-day life. We take it for granted, and the people that create it, they do deserve to be compensated for something that we all enjoy and use on a regular basis.
Yeah, definitely. And the Fortnite thing is it's an interesting kind of moment in time to have the discussion, because Fortnite is you would be hard pressed to find people who don't at least have some sort of an idea about what Fortnite is. So we're kind of in this flashpoint moment, I think, where this conversation can actually start to generate some traction, because everybody knows what Fortnite is. Like, parents know what Fortnite is. Kids know what Fortnite is, obviously. Like, it's a hot button topic. And so, like I said, this show's a little off the rails because but I kind of want to take over for a little bit and just talk about Fortnite and the zeitgeist as a whole, because I don't think Fortnite's so popular. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, one last thing on the dancing thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
Before we move on to Fortnite as a whole. One area where if I were someone who could create dances, I can't even do dances, let alone create them. But if I were someone who had created this crazy popular dance, the thing that I would find most frustrating about this is how many of these parents, grandparents who know what Fortnite is, do you know who talk about their kids doing Fortnite dances? Like, Fortnite, the developers of Fortnite are getting credit for these popular dances, and that's the most upsetting thing to me, I think.
Well, and I think even about like the Millie Rock, and I'm like, I don't know what the Millie Rock is. I don't know which one it is, but I guarantee you if I saw it, I'd be like, that's a Fortnite dance. Yeah. And that is the crux of the issue, is the credit isn't being given where the credit is due. And now do you know which one the Millie Rock is?
I don't. You want me to look it up?
No, it's okay. I'll
perform it for you while you're talking.
Yes. But yeah, no, I do want to kind of move into. I feel like Fortnite is so popular, but I feel like we never talk about it on the show really, because we don't really play it. But it is something that's in the zeitgeist. Mm-hmm. It's constantly in the gaming conversation. You can't go to the GameSpot news section without having to scroll through 45 guides on how to do this week's challenges for Fortnite. Like, I'm interested as a guy who works with youth on a day-to-day basis. Like, has Fortnite kind of crept into the way that you do, like, you're seeing kids in your ministry and that you interact with regularly?
Not for me. Just so in youth ministry in general, I think it really has. For me, I actually don't play video games with my kids very much. Like for me, gaming is one of those rare areas in my life where I actually like, this is where I get away from kids. Yeah. But I know a lot of youth ministers who do play games with their kids, and I know several who don't even like Fortnite, but they play it because that's where their kids are, and that's their opportunity to spend time with them and invest in them. And it is just so like every kid knows what it is, and if a kid plays a game, the kid plays Fortnite. That's just all there is to it. And you have kids who weren't even into gaming before that they've picked up. They play Fortnite now. So yeah, it's pretty.
Do like the kids in your youth group? Do they play? Do they talk about it, or is it just kind of?
Yeah, they play it. They talk about it, and they do the dances for sure. And they know the dances because of Fortnite, not because of where these dances originally come from most of the time.
Yeah, I just I'm not around. I have a 8-year-old nephew who's really into Fortnite. Like, talks my ear off about it every time we get together. I play with him every now and again, and like he's better than me at the game. And I don't know, man. I'm trying to think. Like, I mean, Minecraft was this popular? Maybe no, probably not. Like,
it was more for children. It was more this popular with children, never with teenagers. At least
that's a good point.
Anecdotally, the teenagers.
Yeah, that's a good point. But like, Minecraft's really the only game that I think even came close to this kind of echelon of popularity. And I just think it's such an interesting time in gaming because I think as a whole, like the industry is becoming more mainstream. Like esports are becoming more popular. Fortnite's been a part of the conversation. Gaming as a whole, like whether it's console more mobile gaming, which is gaming, more people do it now than don't do it, at least in like modern cultures and societies,
Yeah, when you throw mobile gaming in and Facebook games, like you even catch a lot of the other crowd in those things.
and it's crazy. So like, but one thing that I have noticed is like Fortnite has become I think within the gaming community, it's become kind of a meme of itself. And there's a lot of people who look at Fortnite as the same way they look at mobile gaming. Like, man, if the only gaming you do is Fortnite, you're not a real gamer, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but I think for people outside of the hardcore gaming culture, like Fortnite is kind of becoming indicative of who gamers are and what gamers are into. And it's funny because like gaming, at least according to research that was back when we were doing Player 3 podcasts, like we kind of fall in the median age of the like big segment of gamers, like people 25 to 35. That was the biggest subsection of gamers. And I feel like if that same research was done today, it'd be completely different. Like I feel like now with Fortnite's popularity, the age of gamers has totally skewed down into probably like the 13 to 18 range. And I think within that, like, I think some of the strides of gaming becoming less taboo is not the right word. What's the word I'm looking for, Larry? But like people look at it and assuming like, oh, you live in your mom's basement, like blah 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 blah. Like I feel like we've taken a couple steps back with Fortnite becoming popular because the people we see doing these dances and like the Jimmy Kimmel video of like, hey, they turned the TV off while the kid was in the middle of the game and filmed him being a brat, like I
know this is kind of random. I'm going to jump in there though, like. What dad do you know, though? You walk in and turn off the big football game is going to be like, hey, man, that wasn't cool. Like
that's what Jimmy Kimmel should do. He should do one for Super Bowl night and be like, turn off the TV for your day. And maybe he has done something like that. But, I guess the question I'm asking is, have you seen a shift in the way that society as a whole views gaming as a result of the rising popularity of Fortnite?
Not a huge one, but a small shift, I think. I I think we were definitely on track to moving to where gaming was not something that was weird for an adult person to do. And I don't think this is like reversed that by any means, but it has like strengthened the perception that gaming is something for children. Because Fortnite's primary target is children. You got adults who play it, but the big demographic is kids, right?
Well, and it's become this boogeyman too. Like, and that's been insane to watch. It's just the number of news stories that are like, Fortnite is destroying the classroom. You know, the kids are bringing in their phone and they're playing Fortnite. And it's like,
before Fortnite came out, kids never snuck cell phones into the class.
they never had to ban Tamagotchis from school. Dude, Tamagotchis were banned when I was in elementary school.
That is a name I have not heard in a long time.
But it's funny. Like, Fortnite has just become this boogeyman. And like the news stories of, my kid is addicted to Fortnite. Fortnite has turned my kid into a zombie. It's like, no. Your shitty parenting has turned your kid into a zombie. It's like, lay some boundaries, set some rules here. But I don't know. It's just, it's been a weird thing to watch. Like, because I do feel like we're in this bell curve of like where we were as far as being viewed by society as a whole.
And I think, I mean, that's what was at the heart of what Jimmy Kimmel was doing, right? All this fear mongering about Fortnite addiction. And I don't understand it, man. And this is basically what you're saying. These things have always existed. Like, kids have always been quote unquote addicted to whatever fun thing they're into. Like, I remember in the 4th grade having like deals in the coat closet before class to, you know, get some Pokemon card trades in. Like, it's fear mongering and it sells, and it gets parents to click on articles for sure. And there are some real issues of spending too much time doing gaming, but you're right. The solution is parents being parents. As a youth minister, when I was on my internship, my field mentor had to deal with a parent who she just came to him. I just can't get my kid to stop playing games all the time. And he's like, have you tried taking them away? And she's like, yeah, but he just has a meltdown. It's awful. I'm like, yes, children do that. Like, and when you let them know that if they do that, they get their way, then congratulations, you've encouraged them to continue doing that.
Yeah, seriously.
If my kid ever has a meltdown, if I take a game away, I will literally just start chopping the thing apart with a katana. I'm not even kidding. I'll be that Tommy Jordan guy who went on TV and shot his daughter. Like, he got on TV because he put a YouTube video up of him like shooting his daughter's cell phone.
But don't be the parent that films it. I hate that shit so much. Like, I'm gonna I'm gonna discipline my child and film it while I'm doing it. I don't know. I've always felt like you've had a real healthy approach with your kids and like their screen time. And I think the biggest, like the most shining example of that is right when your daughter was born. I don't remember how old she was, but a little ways after your daughter was born.
Well, right when she was born, she was 0.
Yes. Now this was a while later. Me and you and our wives and your daughter, we went out to Buffalo Wild Wings, and the waitress just like gave her this gamepad. She's like, I mean, how old was she when this happened? Like a year?
She probably wasn't even a year old. Yeah.
Like the waitress didn't ask you, didn't do any, like just handed your daughter the screen, and you took it away, and you were like, we're teaching our daughter that she doesn't need to be constantly distracted and I just think like it's such a simple lesson. Like, and I know I don't have kids and the lesson may not be as simple in practice as you go on, but like if you resolve to do that in the beginning, you can we sound like old men on this podcast right now, but I don't fucking care because we are.
Well, not just that, but like professionally, this is like what I do, right? I try to help parents raise their kids in the best way they can. And this is a huge problem. Like study after study after study after study showing you the detriment of letting a kid be constantly bombarded by screens. And the younger they are, the worse it is. And look, as a parent, I get it. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and pretend I've always been as good as I was that day at Buffalo Wild Wings, because some days you just want to freaking sleep, and you hand the kid a cell phone and let him watch
Yeah.
whatever till you're done sleeping. But those should be like rare moments where you're like, crap, I got to do better than that. They shouldn't be like the norm, and it's easy for it to become the norm because it's easy, right? A kid that will just sit and stare at a screen is a kid that's not going to cause trouble for you. You get to do whatever tasks you've got to get done. You get to rest if you need to rest. It's the easier way of parenting, but you have to keep in mind that easy way affects the sort of adult that you're raising your child to be.
Exactly. Yeah. But with parenting, parenting's a lot like Overwatch. It's like, rather than recognize that it taking 4.5 minutes for me to farm a blade as Genji is the problem, I'm just going to blame my teammates. I'm going to blame everything else around me. And like Fortnite has become that post that people hitch their horses to, of like, this is the boogeyman. This is the monster under the bed. What are we going to do about Fortnite? It's like, well, we'll get rid of Fortnite and it's just going to be replaced with some other thing that you're not going to have the resolve to keep away from your kids.
And we don't have demographic info on who listens to this podcast. I don't know, but if you are a parent and you've got a kid playing Fortnite, if your big fear is Fortnite, and you do get your kid off of Fortnite, but they just go straight to a screen in some other format, like you've literally done nothing.
I always have this like, I take my Switch with me when I travel and I play it, and I always have like this weird feeling of when I pull it out to play, like, and I feel like people judge me, but then I look around and I'm like, you're just watching TV. The two of you are just staring at your phones. Like, how's it any different for me to pull out my Switch and play a video game? Like, a screen is a screen is a screen, and a distraction is a distraction.
Yeah.
And if the real goal is for us to sit here and, visit with each other, then all of us need to put this stuff away. But as long as you're on your phone, I don't feel bad. Like, that's the mindset I have now.
Yeah.
But that's not the way the world looks at it, because gaming is just this boogeyman for some reason, and Fortnite hasn't been helping.
Yep. So this van that I bought that I'm living down by the river in right now, it has a Blu-ray player with 2 screens in the van, one for each row. And every time we get in it now, my daughter's like, "Can I watch this? Can I watch that?" And I'm like, "Nope." Like we have the screens and we'll use them for like a long trip or whatever, but no, a 25-minute drive to Danville, you're not watching a movie. That's ridiculous.
So
we have this big trip I take the teenagers on every January. We'll spend about 6 hours driving. And, you were in youth group as a teenager. You remember like the trips being like this great experience, like social experience. Like you talk to people, you got to know people better. Maybe you don't. I'm telling you what you remember. But what I remember is like those were trips where I got to grow closer to people that I wasn't like necessarily close with. And that was a pretty cool experience. And I've gotten so frustrated with my kids like refusing to engage with other people on these trips that I'm just going to go full on old man. In January, when we take this trip, I have officially banned electronic devices.
Oh, wow.
You have to socialize. You can nap if you really are opposed to socializing, but I'm not going to let you all sit back there with earbuds and not engage with the people around you.
Yeah. Are you going to film their reactions when you tell them and send it into Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I bet if I did, I could get on the Jimmy Kimmel show. So going for
I'm interested to hear how that goes. But no, I'm there. I remember like the trip was the reason for the trip. Like the drive was the reason to go on the trip. And I can imagine it being a completely different feeling now. I'm just as bad. I distract myself with my phone in almost every situation as well. And I try to be conscious. So like Apple, and again, we're off the rails here, but so Apple has this new screen time function where it monitors how long you've used your phone and like how long your screen's been active. It'll give you a breakdown of the apps you're using and all this. And then you can set time limits for it, for either yourself or like if I'm on a family plan and I've got kids and want to limit it or whatever. I just turned it off because I kept getting the notification about how much time I spent on my screen for the week. I'm like, I don't need this kind of negativity in my life, guys. I don't even want to say the number that it was on. So
I didn't know there were that many hours in
so,
a week.
no, it's a problem, and I mean, I don't think the model of Fortnite makes it any easier, because I think the loop is kind of addictive, and the fact that you can play it literally anywhere on anything. You can probably play Fortnite on your Tamagotchi that is now banned in elementary school. So
I've got a smart fridge running Fortnite on it right now.
Flipping back and forth between that and Skyrim. So, yeah, but I do think it takes a concerted effort as individuals to, like, hey, let's not let this consume our lives. But for some reason, like, I'm not one of those people who, like, hates Fortnite and wants it to fail. If it's your thing, it's your thing. But I do think as a society and the way that people view gaming, I do think it has created a setback of sorts.
Yeah. Yeah. And I see that. And I think what we've been saying is, to some degree, unfairly so. Like, just the number of dads that just whine about their kids playing Fortnite, but like, they're watching literally every football game that comes on.
Or every Overwatch match.
Yeah, the demographic I'm thinking of probably not doing that, but some of
us. One of us. Me.
Do I own any sports jerseys? Yes. Los Angeles Gladiators.
2 of them.
Overwatch. 2 of them.
Yeah. I had another point, but we've been talking about this for like 45 minutes, so it's probably best I don't make it. So.
That's fine.
I don't remember what it is.
It's been good.
Yeah, definitely.
Good discussion. But yeah, Fortnite. Give people credit for their dances. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah. Oh, I was just thinking about, like, I'm thinking back to the, like, embarrassing and weird things I was into when I was, like, the age of the kids who do the Fortnite dances everywhere. Like, when I was that age, I look back to what I was doing, and it was like, I was trying to start a boy band, named the Cirrus Clouds, because we were the highest in the sky. I'm not making this shit up. I
love that you're so open about that. That's one of those things that if it was true for me, I would never tell
I think it's important because, like, everybody wants to go on social media and shit on all these kids that were in Walmart doing these Fortnite dances, and it's like, look, I was in a boy band called the Cirrus Clouds when I was these kids' age. I wore a fucking sweatband around my forearm. All right, like, I wore wide leg jeans. You know, we were all into embarrassing and stupid stuff. And if there would have been people carrying around cameras in their pockets everywhere they went, I'm sure there'd be an embarrassing video of me or two out there for you to see. But I was lucky enough to grow up in an age where not everybody felt like every aspect of their life needed to be filmed. Like, and so I just think we need to give it a rest on this Fortnite meme that we've created. Do a little pushback on how Fortnite is being boogeymanified, and then just, like, let people like what they want to like. I think that's a good way to button it up. You want to admit anything embarrassing about your childhood? He's like, no, everything.
In the 6th grade, I walked real weird, like noticeably weird. People would comment on how weird I walked. And the reason I walked weird was because I would get so self-conscious about the idea that someone might be watching me that I would overanalyze every step I took, and it threw my gait off.
I was hoping you would say, no, I don't. I was hoping you'd say, no, I don't really want to admit anything embarrassing because I already said on this podcast that I still own a katana.
I didn't say I owned one. Now everyone knows.
I would go out to a store and buy a katana and then chop up that game. All right, Larry, speaking of over-violence, let's go into my time.
I'm going to write the game awards and let them know that they need to give you the award for best gaming talk show segue for what just happened. But now I've ruined the segue.
It's all good. I do want to talk about violence in video games. And let me start from the top by saying I do not want to talk about does violence in video games cause real life violence, because we on the PvA radio, I almost said the Player 3 podcast, are intelligent. All right.
we know that study after study after study shows that they do not cause violence.
And if people can get away with saying that guns don't kill people, then we can definitely get away with saying video games don't kill people. All right. I do, however, want to talk about the morality of violence in video games and opportunities in games where like maybe they've taken a unique approach to violence in the way that they've discussed it. So, and this stems from a review actually of an Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC that was written by Colin Campbell over on Polygon. All of our stories from Polygon this week. Shout out to Polygon.
Great job, Polygon.
Now, I don't want to get in the weeds too much about the Assassin's Creed Odyssey DLC, but Colin Campbell spends a lot of the time here kind of talking about a moment in the game where you, in the DLC, where you have to like, you're kind of confronted with what you've been doing. Like, that you're this assassin, you're killing these targets. It's this very like eye for an eye society. And this moment in the DLC where your two dialogue options are, I am a monster or I am not a monster. And basically what it's talking about is like you spend the game and you're killing people, and there's all these different means and reasons that you're killing people. It could be to gain XP, to hopefully get coins, to complete some sort of mission. But like Odyssey takes place the farthest back of any Assassin's Creed game, and you start to realize that no matter how much of this presumed evil you think you're stopping, like there's all of these games that take place in the future where you continue to have to do the same shit over and over. Like, and he said he kind of reached this moment where he was just kind of questioning, like, why am I killing all of these people? And so I want to recognize at the top, neither of us have played this DLC, but I do think it is an opportunity to talk about violence in video games and the morality of violence in video games. And I guess where we can start is like, Larry, has there ever been an experience you've had in a video game that like they kind of took a unique approach to the way that they discussed the violence, or that they made you think about the violence that you were participating in? Because I think we fall in a demographic of people who the majority of games that we enjoy have some level of violence in them.
Yeah, for sure. So there are two things that kind of stand out to me about this. One is, you know, I've crapped all over Bethesda for several weeks now, so let me throw them some good stuff. One thing I've appreciated about their RPGs, Fallout, Elder Scrolls games, is the idea that charisma is a stat. Your ability to engage with people matters. That's a skill set that you have. And those games, like there's in all of them, you can limit the amount of violence that you engage in. Like there are multiple ways to approach a problem, to approach a quest, and you can minimize the bloodshed. Or you can be like straight up evil and just kill anybody who gets in your way. Like there's a decision there, and there are decisions that, unlike Fallout 76, have implications for the world that you're in. I couldn't resist the jab, sorry. But they also have a few games where it's actually possible to beat the whole game without killing anybody. And I think that's really cool, especially for games that are post-apocalyptic or take place in this fantasy world that centers around wielding a sword and magic, you know? So those kind of stand out to me in a positive way. Like anytime where I have the option to not kill, like the game's not going to force me to kill. I don't have to kill every single person to move on to the next realm or the next level, the next area. That's interesting to me. And then one that affects me negatively, and I know the Call of Duty series has a much bigger example of this, but the only campaign I ever played through was, I think it was the first Black Ops. It was either Black Ops or Black Ops 2, where you're in Vietnam.
Black Ops, yeah.
And you have to torture that guy, and like you put glass in his mouth and punch him. Like that really bothered me. I hated that. I think I actually didn't finish the campaign. I think I stopped there. Like I don't like that kind of thing. If I'm going to torture somebody, I want to have the choice to do it or not do it. Yeah. So those are the two big things that stand out to me.
Yeah, one of mine is mine's the other Call of Duty mission that you hinted at, and which is no Russian. And I remember, so I'm in college when I guess that was Modern Warfare 2 comes out, maybe 3. Which one was 2, right?
Yeah, 2. I think.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't play.
You have the mission No Russian where you've infiltrated this Russian terrorist cell. They're about to shoot up this airport disguised as, I can't remember the nationality they were trying to pin it on, but the idea was that they were going to carry out a terrorist attack. It was going to get blamed on another nation, and they were going to create like all this chaos and war. And so you go into this airport with a 50 caliber machine gun and basically are told like mow everyone down. And college me, who had not really begun processing like not process, but like who was just like, this is a video game, boom, boom, pow, pow. Like, this is fun. Ha ha. But playing through it, I remember I played through that mission. Then I had to go to class, and I was talking to a guy that I was walking to class with, and there was a dude in front of me who turned around. He's like, "You had to do that in a video game?" Because I was like telling my friend what he was like. That's barbaric. That's awful. Why would you play anything like that? And I was like, "Huh. You're kind of an asshole, but you're also kind of right." Because you weren't a part of this conversation. And then it turns out like you can go through that whole mission without killing anybody, but you're not presented that option. And so you kind of feel a little slimy after you hear it, because it's like, oh, video game tell me kill, I kill. Like, so I think that's an example of like that choice base of you can or you do or you don't have to kill people. But I think a bigger example for me is The Last of Us, because there is not the option. And so, you spend the whole game killing fireflies, and you're kind of like reading about their stories and their plights and the things that have happened to these people. And like, you start to realize like you're killing people who have the same survival story that you have. Like, you're scrapping for everything that you can get your hands on. You're just trying to make it to the next day. In fact, some of the stories of that you read, like as you're clearing out buildings of people, they're actually trying to do really good work. And you start that game and you're like, this is the typical like protagonist antagonist dynamic. Like, I'm the good guy, these are the bad guys. I'm gonna pew 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 kill the bad guys. And then as you're playing it, like, you start to realize like, I'm doing all of this because at first the story is like, okay, I'm trying to get this girl who can be the cure for everything across the country. But then it starts to become, no, this girl's like a daughter to me. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to keep her alive. And at that point, like, the morality of the things that you're doing starts to shift, and you start to enter this like conundrum of, am I killing these people because they're bad people? Or am I killing these people because like I'm really shitty and selfish? And at the end of the game, you get to that pivotal moment where, if you haven't played The Last of Us at this point, where Ellie asks if you're telling the truth about what happened, because you tell her like, oh, they told me that the surgery, wasn't going to have a chance to save anybody, but in reality he killed all these doctors because the surgery they were about to put her under was going to kill her, even if it had a chance to save everybody and like create a vaccine for this virus that was being spread. He like made the selfish decision to keep her alive. And Ellie asks if he's lying or if he's telling the complete truth about what happened. And he says, yes, I am. And at that point, like, you are kind of hit with this rush of like, I beat the game, I accomplished the mission, but was it the right mission? And like, how many people died because of my selfish intentions, and how many people may have died as an adverse effect of it because there could have been this vaccine that was created that I denied the opportunity to be created. Like, for me, that like left the most lasting impact about the violence that I participated in a game. So let me ask you this, Larry. You're a guy with a lot of like resolve and conviction about some things. Are there any like hard and fast rules for yourself? You already mentioned the torture scene in Black Ops, but are there other hard and fast rules you set for yourself when it comes to violence in video games?
I've never like sat down and thought through rules, but it's more of a, I don't think poorly of anybody who can play a game where they are playing a immoral person or someone who is capable of horrible things. But for me personally, I just can't. I can never fully shake my my real life morals, if that makes sense. There's one exception, Oblivion, an Elder Scrolls game. Like I played through, I did all the good things, I did all the right things, and then I went through and beat I wanted to 100% the game, so I even did the evil stuff, like the Dark Brotherhood assassination quests, whatever. But in general, like, even though it's a video game, like when I have to do something bad, it still makes me feel bad. And so I tend to shy away from those games. If I've got the choice, I'm going to be the good guy. There's just nothing in me that enjoys playing the evil character, if that makes sense. So it's not like a rule for a game, but it's just that I can't shake my real life rules of behavior all the way. Now to a point, obviously that's not 100% true, but for the most part, I'm not capable of being the villain.
I'm like you. I don't really have any set like rules. One thing I will not, and I don't even know of an example of a game where you do this. I'm sure that one exists, but like I'm not going to participate in any kind of sexual violence or anything like that in a video game. It's just makes me uncomfortable. Like not something I'm interested in doing. And if it's a part of the story and it's not like something my character's directly participating in, but like a part of the narrative and like there's like a context and whatever, like that's one thing. But like I have a real problem with like the Grand Theft Auto. I'm going to sleep with the prostitute and then after I'm going to kill the prostitute, get my money back, like that sort of stuff. But outside of that, like I don't really have a lot of rules, and I don't mind being the bad guy and all that stuff. Like I told this story on the podcast a few weeks ago about me coming across that woman who was being kidnapped in Red Dead Redemption, and I saved her, but then like she said something kind of like snarky to me after I saved her, and I ended up killing her. And if like Lauren was sitting there watching, she was like, "You were a monster. You're horrible," like yada yada. And so I like those things that they don't make me feel bad. Like that's not who I am as a person. It's a video game. Like, so I don't have any hard or fast rules either. But I do enjoy a game that like allows me to confront that stuff in a real way. And but I also like the God of War series. The original, where it was just like violence for violence sake. I wasn't really about that life. Like Kratos wasn't a great character. He was just angry and killed. And I mean, he actually did participate in some sexual violence in that game. It's funny. I said there wasn't any examples, and now I've thought of two. I think if violence is like a main part of the story, there does need to be some sort of like reason for it, not just senseless. What's the game that was banned because it was just you basically just played a psychopath who killed for absolutely no reason? I can't remember either. But like that's something I'm not super interested in. But when vehicle is a narrative tool, the torture scene in Black Ops, like it made me uncomfortable, but I did it because it's a part of the story, like, and it belonged in the context. So, go ahead.
So this may be weird. So if you want to figure me out as a person, you got to understand Christianity and Jedi wisdom.
Yes.
Right. And so my approach to violence in general like comes from those two sources. And I know there are a couple different views in Christianity on violence and when it's appropriate, if it's ever appropriate. But all of the views limit violence, right? There's no like, just hurt people. That's cool. But there's an Old Testament passage that really influences me on this. It talks about if someone breaks in your house and you hit them and they die, you're not guilty of murder. But if they break into your house, steal your stuff, run off, and you hunt them down and kill them, then you're guilty of murder. So like there's self-defense and there's like asocial violence. I read a book about this once. Like there's a distinction between those things. And there's a Jedi master who taught the way of the Vornsker form of lightsaber combat. And he talks about a Jedi like never rushes the violence. They always explore every other option. If they have to engage in violence, they do it, but they do it mournfully. There's never any joy in it. And that's like kind of my approach in life of, if someone's trying to hurt me, I'll do whatever I can to defend myself, my family. But I'm never going to like take joy in it. I'm never going to relish it. I'm never going to seek it out. That's foolish and evil. And that's like, I've spent a lot of time thinking about this, right? And I appreciate games that reflect that they've spent time thinking about this. And this article that you shared made me more interested in this Assassin's Creed game than I've ever been in an Assassin's Creed game. Like, although I've had the whole thing spoiled for me, I like that there's this moment where they pause and they consider, is this right? Is this worth it? Is this actually making a difference? Is it making things better? Is it making things worse? And I do wish more games would do that. And it's a problem in all of our entertainment, right? Like, good and evil can only be portrayed in their most extreme forms. Like, we got to have people with weapons killing each other, and the good guys are right in their killing, and the bad guys are wrong in their killing. Is that right? Like, I like when things pause to really consider, and when things recognize that even if you come down on the side of there is a right time and place for violence, there's always a cost to it. It always has an impact on the people that have to engage in it. I appreciate those kinds of stories, and I do wish more games would explore that.
I even like games that have like a weird lore explanation for why like some violence is happening. And I think about like Destiny, right? Where the PvP mode is like, so the whole game is centered on like, you're the guardian, you're a guardian, you're gonna like save Earth, but then you have this PvP mode where like guardians are fighting other guardians, and it just doesn't make any sense. But like in the lore, it explains it as like, this is a training ground and it's a simulation. Like, you're not actually dying, you're in this simulated battle or whatever. And even like little things like that, I appreciate, because it shows that the creators of a game have considered like the violence that they're putting in the games. And even if it seems like a cop-out, like it's a simulation, you're just testing your skills against each other. It's they stepped back and they were like, Guardians killing Guardians doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So how can we broach this in a way that like kind of does? And so I appreciate even little things like that. But I get so much satisfaction out of a game that is aware of the things that it's asking you to do. And it doesn't have to be as on the nose as, Destiny. Like, it's just a simulation. But that subtle, like The Last of Us did, of just like coming to the end of it and being like, I did a whole lot of shit for really selfish reasons. Because I think that the violence can be. I'm not a violent person. I'm a pacifist, in fact. But how many shitty things do I do on a regular basis for selfish reasons? And like the violence in the video game becomes a conduit for me to consider my lesser impactful actions, I guess, that I'm taking in life, and to get to the end of The Last of Us and think about myself and the things that I maybe thought I was doing for the greater good, when in reality were being done because they were selfish. So,
And I love that games can bring us those points and consider
And
those things.
it's the thing
for
that makes
sure.
games unique. Like the agency that you're afforded in a game, even if you're not given the option. Like The Last of Us, there's no pacifist option, right? You know, you have to kill people to get through that game. But the agency and the fact that it was your hands on the controller that led to the actions of your character. You don't get that in movies, and you don't get that in TV shows or reading books. Like those questions can still be raised, but at the end of the day, like you're coming to terms with things that you did. And no Russian, you're coming to terms in the fact that you just walked through an airport mowing through people, and like 20-year-old me just thought, oh, it's just a video game. It's funny. Like, you know.
Yeah. Another game that stands out to me in this regard, I bring it up sometimes. It's one of my favorite games of all time. But Jedi Knight, Jedi Academy. It was a real early Star Wars RPG on the first Xbox. And I talk about how it was one of the first games where I had the experience of making real decisions that really impacted the story. Sorry, my throat is really dry. You know, it was early on in technology. We didn't really have the technology yet for like the sum of choices to like gradually affect the game. Like those kind of things weren't common. The game really came down to you landed on the dark side or the good side final section of the game based on one decision that you made. So you're going through the academy. Luke Skywalker started the new Jedi Academy. You're coming through as an apprentice. You've got a master, but you make a friend early on. Your ship crashes. You have this adventure together. You make a friend who's also an apprentice, and he has a different master. And throughout the game, like both of you are like kind of flirting with the line of the dark side, and he winds up falling to it. And he kills fellow apprentices. He does all this awful stuff. He personally wrongs you. He attempts to harm you multiple times. And you have this final showdown with him, and you beat him, of course. And he's laying on the ground. I mean, he's kind of kneeling. You've taken his lightsaber away. And this is the moment where you get the decision. It's like a split-second moment, like of whether you kill him or not. And you know, in a lot of people's morality, you're more than justified, right? He's a murderer. He's attempted to kill you. You're actually engaged in combat right at this moment. You just happen to have taken his weapon away. There's nothing to say that he can't do anything else to you. I mean, he's force sensitive. But whether you kill him or not determines whether
Just like the world
you're
works, one decision.
Story. You're right. One decision. And that does it. Like, it really stuck with me. Like, there's merit to being the person who offers mercy. Yeah, I'm getting out of what I meant to say. I'm just saying, like, I just wanted to bring up another. This game really like stuck with me. It's been 15 years or so since I played this game, but I still remember that moment of decision. Am I going to strike him down or not? And it wasn't, if I remember right, it wasn't even like a clear decision. It was just it was a matter of whether you hesitated or whether you just pulled the trigger on the Xbox controller.
Yep. All right. I have another question there. I think we've had a really good discussion. So we're going to leave it there. And then I have bad news, Larry. I have not prepared a game for us this week. So
That's fine. I understand.
So the off the rails craziness just continues. So, but we're an hour and a half into the show anyway. So we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Larry, who are you? Where can people find you, and what are you going to be tweeting about this week?
I'm Larry. You can find me on Twitter at LairHuntsZombies, LARHUNTS Zombies. And this week I'll be tweeting about the deeper questions of violence in the human struggle. And I'm considering changing my Twitter handle. I don't like LairHuntsZombies. I never really have. I'm not very creative. And I want my name incorporated in whatever it is, and it's the best pun I had at the time.
Well, I'm Luke. You can find me on Twitter at TK from Antioch. And this week, I'm probably just going to tweet about how many hours I've been watching Overwatch Contenders and how it's probably equal to the number of hours that there have been in the week. So, Turned off
But I'm
screen
not
time.
sure because I turned off the iPhone thing that tells me how much
But this
I've been
is
watching
PvA
Twitch.
Radio. Get together every week. We bring the biggest news stories and have an in-depth discussion about them. Your collaborative audio feature article. You can find us on podcast services everywhere. YouTube.com as well. Just search PvA Radio and then twitch.tv/PvA Radio. Follow us. Hit the notification bell. We'll start doing these shows live. But until 3 weeks from now, we love you. Goodbye.
Why, that's the second biggest monkey head I've ever seen.
I used to be an adventurer like you. Then I took an arrow in the knee.
Did I ever tell you the definition of insanity?
Would you like me to come down short?